So let's get down to business. And is the outlook a little brighter? Well, that is the talk in Davos, apparently, as business leaders and top government officials discuss the recent changes in the global economy. One thing they're talking about is China's recent move to drop strict COVID controls. This is seen as a boost. And now the International Monetary Fund may soon upgrade its economic forecasts. Well, today we'll get a sense of how challenging the economic environment is across Europe, because in just a few hours we'll get the latest inflation numbers in the UK and the Eurozone. Well, let's discuss this with Catherine Nice, Chief European Economist at PGIM Fixed Income. Catherine, good to see you. So let's start with the inflation figures. The UK, will we see them coming down again today?
So we're getting UK CPI data for December later today, as you said, and we are expecting that number to come down relative to the number that we had in November. So that is clearly good news. We're also going to get Euro area headline inflation data for December. We had a preview of that number earlier this month. We're not expecting that number to change very much, but there too we're expecting that inflation will show some signs of having fallen back from November, and indeed there peaks around October time.
Okay, so when we talk about the numbers, currently in the UK we had inflation at a 40-year high of 10.7%. That was the last reading. Will we be below double digits, do you think?
It's possible. I think the more important thing will be to see not just a continuation of the trend in the decline in inflation, but really what I think a lot of people and analysts will be focusing on is inflation falling back faster than expected? And secondly, are we seeing that the decline in inflation is being driven by a more broad-based decline in the prices of consumers and services, of goods and services that consumers buy, or are we continuing to see that it's really just concentrated in energy? So those two things, I think, is what people will be really looking out for in today's data.
Because food inflation is still extremely high, isn't it? Certainly in the UK and in Europe. And that's just basic items, meaning the cost of living crisis is still very, very tough and challenging for households.
That is absolutely true. We're seeing that the pace at which prices are rising is perhaps coming down, but the fact of the matter is that prices are continuing to rise, and they are rising at rates that are still very, very high. So whilst it's clearly good news that inflation is falling back, it's probably too soon to declare victory. We are expecting a number of around 10% for the UK for December, probably closer to 9% in the Euro area, but clearly these numbers are very high. They're certainly too high relative to the central bank's 2% inflation target, both here in the UK and in the Euro area. And so I don't think that policymakers are going to be complacent when we see this data.
Just briefly, Catherine, what we're hearing from Davos is, delegates there are becoming more positive. They're being more optimistic about the outlook for various reasons. Is that just the drink talking at the soirees, or do we have reason to be more optimistic?
I think there are good reasons to be more optimistic. We've seen a lot of momentum in economies, both here in the UK and in the Euro area throughout 2022, that really fed through towards the tail end of last year in a way that was surprisingly robust, I think, for most people. We've also had very good news on the energy front, which I think is a combination of good planning and a bit of good luck when it comes to weather. And those two factors, I think, have made the outlook through this winter a more positive one. That said, the fundamentals around the energy challenge, around tight global energy supply, that remains. And of course, the geopolitical risks around an intensification from Russia-Ukraine remains a risk for Europe as well.
OK, Catherine, we appreciate your analysis. Catherine Nice, their Chief European Economist at PGIM Fixed Income. Now we'll